my person your way?
No.
Move it on over.
I was looking you to bring it.
I didn't, because I came from work.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. As you know, the weather is a call for love, and but still, I know we're gonna have a good time, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what I want to do, I want to start off with. If you don't have one of these sheets, then pass one down. As part of our warm up, I would love for us to say the part on the sheet that's underlined. I'll read the part that's not, and that'll help bring our energy into the main thought, and then we go into the course of love. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So let's do it. The steps to awakening. The first step in awakening is to allow the mind this axiom of truth. Together. Nothing that I experience is caused by anything outside of me. I experience only the effects of my own choice. You need to come to the point where you say to yourself, I have done this to myself. I did it. I must correct it. No one is to blame. The world is innocent. Listen to that one more time. You know, whatever's upsetting you, go, what? I have done this to myself. I did it. I must correct it. No one is to blame. The world is innocent. The truth is true always. Not my will, but thine be done. For I can do nothing, but the Creator does all things through me. Rest assured, whenever you feel frustration and anxiety, it is because you have decided not to trust the truth. And the truth is simply this. Only my Creator's plan for my happiness will work. Let's say that a little bit more juice, those who feel like saying it. Okay, those who feel like saying it, let's do it with juice. Those who just want to listen, just listen. Okay, is that cool? Yeah. All right, let's say it again. Only my Creator's plan for my happiness will work. It requires great humility to accept the first step on the path. Again, I have done all this. I must undo it, but I have no idea how I did this. Therefore, I must surrender to something else. If you would create well, ask only, what am I committed to communicating? What will my creations express? What will my creations convey to others? For what I seek to convey reveals what I believe is the truth of myself and to the world. That's right, take it slow. The Course in Miracles says that if you read it slowly, it takes a minute to kind of digest it. Where all of us are good at reading, so we could read fast, but it wouldn't mean we were getting it, right? So just when you take it slow, it's like, the ego doesn't like that because you hear it. Understand well, the way of the heart requires that you allow yourself to rest in the simplicity of truth, which is, I am pure spirit, undefiled and unaffected by anything or anyone. I am given full power to choose and therefore to create my experience as I would have it be. Did anybody see any sentence on that sheet that kind of stood out for them more than any other sentence? Did you care to just say which one impacted you? Yes.
Only my Creator's plan for my happiness will work.
What did you like about that one?
Well, I kind of got something about this. Like I had a ding, ding, ding moment. And I'm a teacher, so I'll make it fast. I'm a teacher, so I was hoping we'd have a snow day on Wednesday, and I was like, I want a snow day, I want a snow day, and it wasn't happening. And then I was like, oh, so anything, like what you said last time, anything that not getting what I want would cause me dis-peace is nothing anyways, is idle, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, if they can take it away my snow day, it's an idle thing. So then I had to go to work, and then I had to remember that, I mean, it didn't work. I was still unhappy having to go to work, but I got it for a minute.
Oh yeah, that's good. Every minute counts.
That I don't run it, and only my creators plan for my happiness will work.
Absolutely.
So for a minute I got it, but then
That's okay. That's how it starts. It starts in, like the Course says, it starts in glimpses. I love to use the analogy of remembering the truth is like how a shower starts. You know, it's like blip, 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 and that's the way it begins. First you get a glimpse, then you keep on practicing, you get another one, then another one, then another one, and then you have a little space between it. Then you get another one, and before you know it, you're in a storm of good.
You get to take a shower.
You get washed clean with the truth. That's right. That's right. And so I'm glad. Thank you. Anybody else have a statement that kind of leaped out for them? Yeah.
What am I committed to communicating?
What am I committed to communicating? That's another great one. Why did that one kind of?
Well, based on results, how it's showing up is what you're committed to communicating. Yeah. So how's your experience? How have things been showing up lately? Well, some things are in the right space, and other things are in big resistance. Still figuring out how I'm communicating, although then seeing the results is already an indicator of what that is.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
I must surrender to something else. I'm not sure I dig it, because I'm wondering if I have to surrender to something else in order for me to accept that nothing I experience is caused by anything outside of me.
Yes. But what you're surrendering to is the truth that's the opposite of what you're telling yourself. And what you're surrendering to is your higher self. So I must surrender, right. You know, it's like, since I have no idea how I did this, then I need to surrender to the part of me that knows how it's happening and what's going on. So I need to surrender to something else. It's me surrendering to the part of me that does know. And when you hear terms like the Holy Spirit from a Course in Miracles and Course of Love perspective, it's just talking about the Holy Spirit is that part of you that knows the truth, that's still connected to the divine, and is still aware of its spiritual identity. So the Holy Spirit isn't something outside of you. When somebody says, I'm going to give it to the Holy Spirit, they're really saying, I'm going to give it to the part of me that loves me. I'm going to give it to the part of me that knows. I'm going to give it to the part of me that has infinite intelligence. I'm going to give it to the part of me that's connected to God. Does that make it sound? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so when you don't stop and go, I'm giving something to the Holy Spirit, then it's just the part of you that doesn't know, that's trying to figure out its latest plan, and now it's trying to work its magic one more time. And the truth is, haven't we done that our whole freaking life? I mean, when are we going to get beyond that idea that our happiness is based on us making up something without checking in, and then going about trying to get it to happen, where we have no idea exactly how it's going to happen, but we're not asking the Holy Spirit either. So the easy way is to go, I must surrender to something else. The part of me that knows. That's what it means. The part of me that is connected to God.
Outstanding response.
Thank you. I love questions because it gives me an opportunity to say what I need to remember more. Anybody else have a statement that leaked out that's when they were going through that, or that impacted them more than any other statement?
I do.
Yeah, Kimberly.
Whenever I feel frustrated and anxious, it's because I have decided not to trust the truth. That's huge for me.
Isn't that huge? Anything else you care to say about that? How is that huge for you? If you don't mind sharing.
I can know the truth, but don't know it, but I'm not trusting it. I'm not really believing it. I mean, my wise son told me the other day, because I was telling him something I wrote, and he said, no. And then later on in the conversation, I was telling him how I felt, and he said, now if you would just believe what you wrote, then all would be good. And I went, crap, kid's a lot wiser than I am. But you know, other people can see it.
Right, that's why
It's
it's so
real clear.
good we have each other.
Mhm.
That's the benefit of us having each other.
But I believe, you know, what I wrote, I believe was the truth,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't quite feel it yet.
Yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. I love how he says that there are like 3 or 4 stages to accepting the truth. First you say it and you don't believe it. Then you say it and you believe it a little bit more. Then you say it and you accept it a little bit more until you accept it. And then when you accept it, then you see it. So the hardest part as a teacher that I've noticed is that people don't realize that you're not expected to have necessarily an emotional reaction of accepting a brand new idea that you've never heard before. But what's really important is that the new idea be introduced to you. So what happens is that we hear truth and we don't get it, we don't necessarily believe it, and so we don't keep saying it. Because I'm gonna tell you, the truth doesn't have anything to do with your belief in order to be true. That's the part. When I used to read stuff like "you are what you think," and that's not true. You're not what you think. You perceive what you think. You experience what you think. You live what you think, but you are not what you think. You know, you are the self that's thinking it and experiencing it, but you are not your thoughts. You know what I mean? So it's kind of to tell yourself that you are what you think is really a very chaotic way to identify yourself, because what you think about yourself is constantly changing all day long. So if you are what you think, there's nothing stable about you to know. You're going to be constantly just going through a million different changes all the time. So separate yourself from what you think. You are not what you think about yourself. You are not what you think about yourself. You experience what you think about yourself. And so what the Course of Love does and the Course of Miracle does is it tries to give us ideas that are in alignment with what we are, that helps to facilitate us knowing what we are, because it says that every problem that you think you have is an identity problem, that every problem is a problem that's rooted in you don't know who you are. So if I knew I was an infinite creator, what would I be worried about? If we really knew we were infinite creators, what would we be concerned about? We wouldn't be concerned about anything, because we would just adopt the consciousness necessary to have everything. We would just do it, you know. So let's go to Course of Love. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go through this fairly rapidly, and then I'm going to tap on the sentences and stuff that really stand out to me. This section can seem kind of abstract, this section called the intersection. And I'm going to start on page 199, paragraph 22.8. And it says, meaning is similarly interpreted. Intersections that create function and purpose are deemed meaningful. Intersections that seem to have no function and no purpose are deemed meaningless. So, intersections that create function and purpose. So us coming together now, would that be an intersection that creates function and purpose?
Yes.
Yeah. So that means this, by definition, is a meaningful intersection. So it's interesting to think of a relationship as an intersection. So people are going to be going out probably tomorrow night looking for as much intersection that they can probably pull off, right? And then it says, but if that intersection has no function, and that intersection has no purpose, then it's deemed as meaningless. Let me cut this off for a second, because it'll be the one thing that's on the video. It'll be louder than anything. So so function and purpose determines how meaningful an intersection is. A relationship is no more purposeful, no more meaningful than its function and its purpose. Most relationships are formed in order to give the people involved some form of specialness in some way. And a meaningful relationship is formed in order to recognize who you really are, to recognize your innocence, and to recognize your power. So those are basically the two kinds of relationships. Either I'm forming a relationship to forget who I am, or I'm forming a relationship to remember who I am. I'm forming a relationship to experience real love, or I'm forming a relationship to forget what real love is. And everything that's born in time will end. So you know every relationship at the level of form will end. And so every time you forget that, you're taking yourself into deception. Even if it's an ending coming through the transition we call death. there's no such thing as anything in this realm that's permanent. And so the Course teaches all the time that one of the things that we use to keep ourselves from enjoying ourselves is we keep on trying to make the temporary timeless. We spend our time trying to make stuff not change. And the one thing that everything is going to do here is change. You can count on it. As a matter of fact, it's a blessing that it does. That means that the universe won't let us stay stuck, even if we want to stay stuck. It's still asking us to evolve. So it says the act of passing through is of itself seen as little consequence. Yet it is the passing through that creates the intersection. The fact that we're passing through creates the intersection. Everything within your world, everything within your day must pass through you in order to gain reality. Now that's a powerful sentence. I said it again. Everything within your world must pass through you in order to gain reality. So in order for anything to become real, it's got to come through you. So if I want real love, who does it have to come through? Me. If I want real peace, who does it have to come through? Me. If I want prosperity and abundance in my life, what does it have to come through? Me. So anything that you want to be real has to come through you. But what is it that we learn in the world? We look for it to always come through somebody or something outside of us. Mm-hmm. This love that I want in my life must come through you. The abundance that I want must come through you. The peace that I want is going to come through you. The happiness that I want, he says, no, that's backwards. The peace that I want must come through me. The happiness that I want must come through me. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's rule number one. Also, it says, while you might think of this as everything outside of yourself, please, when thinking of this, use the words I have provided. Everything within your world must pass through you. Everything in your world must pass through you. In the act of passing through you, assign meaning to everything within your world. As it passes through me, I assign meaning to it. Whatever feelings pass through me, then I tell you what the feelings mean. Whatever thoughts pass through me, then I tell you what the thought means. So the purpose of this is to get us to understand that we are the one that's assigning meaning, and we are assigning the meaning to everything that comes through us. So the meaning you assign becomes the reality of the object you have assigned meaning. So I am no more real to you than the meaning you have assigned to me. You are no more real to me than the meaning I have assigned to you. And what makes us seem different is that we have assigned different meanings to each one of us. So that's why we treat each other different, because I have a different meaning to you than your husband does. So you're going to treat me different than you would your husband, because the meaning that you give us is different. So the only reason why we treat each other different is what? We give each other different meanings. And then the person that we give the most important meaning, would that be the person that we would see as special? Okay, but we don't realize that that's just a meaning we assign to them. And guess what I learned? Is that just like someone can give you meaning, they can take it back. And sometimes you forget that when you're in a relationship, because you get so caught up in the energy of it that you don't realize that the way you're being treated is a gift. And it's a gift that's coming from the meaning that the person is giving you right now. And if they change that meaning, or if they come to feel like you are not going to help them achieve their goal, whatever that goal is, then people withdraw the meaning. Or else we would not have had so many different relationships in our lifetime. So it's easy to see the truth of what I'm talking about. You know. How many people have you told in your life, in the time that you were dealing with them, that they were the most important thing in the world, that you loved them no matter what, that you would be there forever, y'all would always be close? Think about in your whole life, how many times you had that conversation with somebody that right now you may not even be in communication with. So that shows us that we're the one that's giving the meaning, we're the one that's taking it back. So here's my question to the group. Is that real love?
No.
Why isn't it?
Because it ends.
Conditional.
Because it ends, because it's conditional. What else? Why isn't it real love? It changes. It's temporary. Now, all of us could answer that. All of us were pretty much in agreement with that. But have you noticed that the next time it happens, you'll tell yourself it's love? Yeah, every time you're in it, you say it's love. It's not until you're out of it that you see it wasn't. But it was specialness. But specialness can be used to make you aware of love. Specialness can be used to move you in the direction of love. But it's important to understand that if the only reality of something is the meaning you give it, it couldn't possibly be real. Because the meaning you give it can change. So if the reality of something is only the meaning you give it, then you know it can't be real. Because you know you can change from day to day, moment to moment. But you can ask for that thing to be used as a way for you to find out what real love is. You can say, I have this special meaning that I'm giving you. I would love this to be used as a way to teach me what real love is. That way you're not in conflict with your world all day. As you be in conflict with your world all day. Just because you realize something isn't real doesn't mean you can't play with it. It doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. As a matter of fact, the Course in Miracles teaches that the only reason why anything in this world hurts us is that we forget it's not real. If we didn't forget that it was not real, you could play with everything in this world without getting hurt. That's different, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Think about it. You know, if I'm licking the ice cream cone and I don't expect the ice cream to last forever on a summer day, then when I'm finished with it, will I go into depression and need therapy? Or will I go, that was an ice cream cone, that was ice cream in an ice cream cone, and I didn't expect it to last forever, but I certainly enjoyed licking it. See the difference? But if I'm going, this ice cream cone has to last forever, then you're in big trouble. You're not going to enjoy it. First of all, you're not going to ever lick it because you're trying to make sure that you never lose it. So they just what? Melt. So even if you don't enjoy it, it leaves. So why don't you enjoy everything in your life right now, knowing whatever it is, it's going to change. And it could change for the better.
Nobody's saying a word.
We're also being afraid of loss. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's sad.
It's sad.
Because I'm buying everything you're saying, but I also know how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel?
I'm afraid of loss.
Right.
I'm afraid of change.
Thank you. Guess what? I am afraid of loss, and I am afraid of change. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry, you're not that special.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't think I was.
No, it's like this. We're all special, so therefore none of us are special.
Right.
Every one of us are special. All of us are special. That's the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part. Okay, any questions about what I've said so far? And you open the comments, you don't have to necessarily be questions. I love to hear how you think.
Oh,
Okay.
every relationship that allows function in what form?
Yeah, every relationship that has function and purpose is meaningful,
Okay.
and every relationship that has no function and no purpose is meaningless. You assign meaning to everything that comes through you, and nothing is real to you until it comes through you. So you're more likely to say you're really sad when you feel it coming through you. Or you're really happy when you feel it coming through. That's why when we express ourselves to people, we are so convinced that it's true because we are feeling it and it's coming through us. In that moment, it could be very true, but everything in time changes with time. I'm so glad that's true, and I used to not be glad that was true. You have seen your purpose as one of assigning meaning to that which intersects with you in a given way that you deem is purposeful. Yet it is in the passing through that meaning occurs of itself. Further, it is the part of you through which everything within your world passes and your awareness of it that determines the meaning you give it. In other words, you are much more like unto the layers of the onion than the globe, with everything within your world needing to pass through layers with a seeming lack of purpose for the passing through. This is where you read these kind of books. Here's a tip. Instead of going back, trying to understand what you just read, go forward. Go. And that means you might think of the axis for a moment as a funnel through which eternity is poured, and a whole heart as that which can allow free pass through of all that is provided. So if I have a whole heart, then everything that is provided by the universe, everything that's provided by God, I will allow it to pass through me. So a whole heart means you're going to let all the good stuff come through you. So if I'm wholehearted, I'm going to let the joy come through me. I'm going to let the abundance come through me. I'm going to let the loving relationships come through me. I'm going to let the free attitude come through me. That's a great definition of wholeheartedness. I'm willing to let all of God's good pass through me. That's wholeheartedness.
I'm wholehearted.
I'm wholehearted.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wholehearted. You might think of an axis for the moment as a funnel through which eternity is poured, and a whole heart as that which can allow free pass-through of all that is provided. In contrast, the layered approach to intersection causes you to feel as if external forces are bombarding you. What does that mean? These forces must pass through one or another of your five senses, which you might think of collectively as layers, and are allowed no other access. Okay, it sounds complex, but this is what this is saying. Your five senses are layers, and nothing gets to you unless it goes through your five senses. Right? So, but what you see through your five senses is always ultimately based on what you give meaning to. So you only see what you value. You only see what you believe. So now, thinking of it that way, you could see how you could block the access of all the good stuff. I see it every day. I see people who are miserable who won't change their mind. So what they're doing is they're using their senses to block all their good. They got layers, which is their belief system, over the truth. So it's saying to us, these forces, what must then be directed? Often great effort is expended keeping these forces from piercing your heart. And what is the heart? It's not a physical organ. The heart is the center of yourself. So when you say, I want to get my heart into it, you're saying, I want to get the whole center of my being into it. So the heart, in spiritual terms, is not my organ that's pumping the blood through my body, which is where people always go to. I'm across my heart. It's great. But your heart is the center of you. It's the center of your being. He says, you instead, often great effort is expended keeping these forces from piercing your heart, the center of yourself. You instead deflect them using the mind, which might be considered another layer. So even your mind is another layer that could be blocking your good, because that's the way you think, and the way you think could be blocking your good. So he says to send them to various compartments, or continuing with the onion theme, to one of the various layers of yourself. What does that mean? These layers protect your heart. See, what I'm really doing with my senses, with my beliefs, with my thoughts, is I'm trying to protect myself. So I'm using all of my senses, all of my thoughts, and all of my belief system. That's why when you tell somebody something and it's different from what they believe, their first instinct is to defend against what you're saying, because they built their whole belief system around who they think they are, and they've set it up as to how they think they're going to protect themselves. And so when you attack a person's self-concept, then you're actually attacking the part of them that they're most likely to defend, because everybody thinks they are what they think they are. So as soon as you say something opposite to what they think they are, they go. The Course says that we're so attached to our beliefs that the minute someone disagrees with us, we feel attacked. A part of us always go, because you want to hear the person go, yeah, you're right, I agree with what you say. What I've learned through a lot of these spiritual teachings is that they are right about what they're saying. In other words, they look at me and say, I think you're the most cruel, selfish person in the world. If I'm conscious, I'll go, you're right. And why? Because if I heard it, there's a part of me that believes that about myself. if I heard it, there's a part of me that has been selfish in my life, and there's a part of me that has been cruel in some instances in my life. They're absolutely right. My ego wants to say, no, I'm not cruel, because the Course in Miracles teaches that everybody makes up what it calls a face of innocence. And he says, do we make up two faces? One face is the face of innocence. He says, that's the us that would be nice in a cruel world. We're the nice person that everybody seems to be hurting. And so he says, our faces are often wet with tears at the injustices that the world would do to those who would only be good. Everybody familiar with the face of innocence?
Oh, yeah.
It's the nice Earl, the one who would never hurt anybody. And then he says, right under that face is the other one. And he says, underneath that is the you that is angry, that feels guilty, that has not recognized the truth, and that projects and blames on others what it's going through. And it's the part that's right beneath the face of innocence. So I wanted to get past that. And so I learned that the only way to get past it is to admit that it's in your mind. And the average person thinks that they're going to get past it by pretending that it doesn't exist in them. And then saying it exists in everybody else. So then you become the nice person surrounded by not so nice people. And I've seen that a lot in my life, where I thought I was the good one surrounded by the bad ones. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we know.
Not me.
Yeah, it's like, and there's a part of me that still wants to believe I would never hurt anyone.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't. I can barely. I can see your wings trying to sprout under that jacket right now. They feel like they all combined. You're trying to flutter and you can't even get past that jacket. No, I see your wings. I like wings, as a matter of fact. That's what I always go ask for, wings and breasts. It's like dating can be just like takeout or drive-through. Really? All right. I have to catch myself before I find out. I just get too serious about this
Yeah,
stuff.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? It's
I
like,
was ready to cry.
I know the coach. I thought I was being very inspirational today. That's okay. Yeah, it's like how can you tell when you're getting enlightened? Because you would be able to admit all of your feelings. So the minute someone goes, "You're selfish," I go, "You're right. You're absolutely right. I am. I'm very selfish." You'll be amazed at how that'll completely diffuse the situation. It'll diffuse you, because you know you're telling the truth, because there's a part of you that's been that way. The other person, you just taken all of the wind out of their sail, because they was already getting to the thing about you. They was getting ready to prove to you why you so selfish. They had the list ready for you, and then you went, "That's okay. I am selfish. I'm so selfish. I'm not gonna even do what you're saying right now. I'm still gonna be selfish. How about that?
I'll even write them down.
I'll even write down what I'm not gonna do." I tell you, boy. So let's go on a little bit further. It says, he says, these layers protect your heart, right? And a great percentage of these layers are involved with denial. I love that. Now, if you're reading the sentence, you see what it's saying, involved with denial, and then there's a comma afterwards. Then the next part of the sentence always tells you what the first part of the sentence was saying. In other words, what is denial? Creating places where things enter and simply sit. If I'm in denial, it's in there, it's just sitting there, but I'm not acknowledging it. That's a great definition of denial. It's in there, it's just sitting there.
Is that the opposite of flow?
That's a total opposite of flow. Denial.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, denial is the opposite of flowing.
flow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, could you imagine how sick you would be if your body never eliminated?
Yeah.
But then that's just the opposite of the way we approach everything. We try not to let anything flow through our life. We try every little thing that shows up, we try to keep it. You know, every time I get ready to clean up something, to get rid of something in my apartment, And it would be better for me not to look through the stuff. Because if I look through the stuff, I'm going to go, oh, I might need this 1992 magazine. It might come in handy again when they talk. You know, it's like my mind will think of some reason to not let it flow through my life. You know, especially people. It's almost like there's something wrong with people flowing through, as if every person must be held on to for a lifetime. A great analogy is, how many songs would we hear if the musician only played one note and didn't let go of that note to play the next one? Would you even hear a song? No, but that's the way we play. We want to have a one-note life. I'm going to get this note, and I'm never going to let this note go. Instead of going note, 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 note. That's situation, situation, person, person, circumstance, circumstance. So you can get a whole song. So you all have been playing a relationship concerto. Some of you all are like Beethoven. Y'all had so many different relationships to so many different notes. You a musical genius. Yeah. Like if I was to play my concerto. That'd be like the flight of the bumblebee. There's so many people that passed through my life since I've been teaching this. Y'all realize how many people I've seen in 30 years come through a class like this? Lots. And they all have one thing in common. They were all characters. All interesting people. The ones you would really get to know. Just like you. You know, it's like they're always unique, but they pass through. I've always had a pass-through class. I've never had a class that built up to hundreds of people. I've always had classes that averaged 40, 50 people at the highest. And they come through, they have a very intense experience of me, and then they move on. You know. And it took me a while to get that I had what I call flow-through relationships. I have some that have lasted a lifetime, but they're very few. I mean, really very few. There are very few people in my life that I've known over 15 years or 10 years. Very few. Very few. And so I've had to live that, release, let go, you know.
I assign meaning. Okay, so let's just say romantic relationships.
Let's just say.
I assign meaning to them before I even go out with them.
That's why you go out with them.
Yeah. No, I've already figured out how they're gonna be, who they're gonna be in my life, and when they're not, who I want them to be. You know, they're just not right. So
they're just not right. That's funny when you think about it.
It's my spiritual goal to accept that nothing is permanent and just enjoy whatever it is, and acknowledge, like, it doesn't make me bad that I go through so many of them. Or is the goal to acknowledge that I'm the one placing meaning, and that ultimately, if I work on it, I'll be able to have a long-lasting relationship.
You mean have what?
Like a longer-lasting relationship.
Yeah. The second one. Actually, both of them are true, but the second one, especially when you said that you're the one that's assigned the meaning. And that it is possible for you to have long-lasting relationships. But to have a lifelong relationship requires some people have lifelong relationships and never like each other. The Course says that you could have a lifelong relationship that you never like each other. So, but what you're doing is, he says, you're presenting each other with unlimited opportunities to learn. And this is the part that really made me mad about that. Say anybody that you have a relationship that's a lifelong relationship also means you all are just alike. Okay, that's why you're there at that length of time, because you think you're different, but you're actually just alike. You know, so relatives usually give you unlimited opportunities to learn. Children give you unlimited opportunities to learn. People that you form special relationships for a while give you unlimited opportunity to learn. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Okay? But for you to get that, you're the one that's giving it meaning, is the biggest breakthrough you could give yourself. And so our function is actually to use those relationships to recognize our divinity, that we are love, that we are spirit. And when you say it to people, they don't get excited, but they don't understand. When you're with someone who recognizes their spiritual identity, you're with someone who's forgiving, loving, freeing, guiltless, fun. You know what I'm saying? Actually, now you're getting ready to party like a big dog. It's hard to have fun with somebody who believes in guilt and fear and possession and attack and defense. That's not the fun person. The fun person is the one who feels so good within themselves that they can let you have a good time and let you be. So actually saying that we're in a relationship to remember that each other are innocent and loving, that makes the relationship fun. So it's not a loss at all to have a spiritual purpose in a relationship. But people almost act like it's a loss to say that you're going to have a spiritual purpose. But that's what keeps the relationship from being boring. If you don't have a spiritual purpose, all you're going to do is repeat what you've done in every relationship. It's just going to be a repeat of what you already done. So when you take the spiritual element out of a relationship because you think you're just going to have a good time with each other, what you're getting ready to do is get into a boring, repetitive pattern that you've always done with everybody else you've ever been with. That's what's getting ready to happen. But if you're using your relationship to explore each other, now you're getting ready to have some new experiences that you've never had before. Because then you're going to be asking each other questions. What do you feel? What did you want? What do you want? What would you like to do? What is your goal? What is your secret desire? What could I do for you? See what I'm saying? When you're asking questions, then you get a chance to see who the person is behind the meaning you have assigned to them. Because right on the other side of the meaning you've given me is me. See, there's you, your interpretation of me, then me. There's you, my interpretation of you, and then you. And that's what we don't get. That right here in the middle of this room is the wall that all of us are looking at, which is the interpretation that we have of each other. But yet we think we're actually looking at each other right now. But actually you're just looking at your interpretation right now. I want to know who you are on the other side of my interpretation.
But how do you do that?
By recognizing, first of all, that it's my interpretation that I'm looking at. And then I listen to what the Holy Spirit has told me. And the Holy Spirit told me that if I'm looking at you correctly, then I could scarce refrain from falling down on my knees in gratitude and with tears coming down my face because what I see is so beautiful and loving. And until that happens, I haven't seen you yet. So I know no one's really seen me, and I haven't really seen anyone.
Isn't that the onion?
That's right. And every time we're here, like tonight, we're peeling another layer off that onion. Until there's finally what? No onion. See, you're not even the onion. Because after a while, you keep getting rid of the layers, there's no onion. And so it's what's on the other side of the onion is you. So really, a perfect relationship is a relationship where you're stripping each other. That you get more and more naked. Naked in your thoughts, naked in your feelings, naked in where you're coming from. You know, getting someone naked in the body is the easy part. Getting somebody to get naked in their thoughts, their feelings and emotions and who they really are, that's the harder part. As a matter of fact, sometimes people use the body and the joining of the body and the focus on the body to avoid communication. It's the way you don't talk. You know, I don't know about you, but I've been in relationships before where I really needed to talk something out and the other person wanted to make love. It was like, no, let's forget about that. That's just, you know, it's like, no, that's the way to keep us from communicating what needs to be said right now. It's a fun way to block communication. But, I mean, communication is going to be blocked. That's a pretty good way. That's a good way to do it. But if you're really ready for some real communication, then for a while, you know, you need to like make sure that you communicate beyond the body. Right? Okay. Yeah, I love the questions because the questions you're asking are questions that everyone will wonder, but for some reason we won't ask. And so I like that. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you for so much I love how you said also you would see a guy or whoever, I don't know nowadays, you never know, but you'll see somebody you like. I used to always assume that. Over the last few years, it's been really great counseling over the last few years because I've noticed a completely different change of attitude about people in same-sex relationships. That people are much more likely to tell you they're in a same-sex relationship innocently than they would have just 6 or 7 years ago when I was counseling. And people feel much more freer to love people of the same sex than ever before. So now I found myself being self-conscious, just assuming that the person is talking about somebody of the opposite sex when they talk about somebody that they're attracted to. But usually you can tell that they're talking about somebody of the same sex because they'll say, my partner, this person. They don't know that that's just pretty much the giveaway right there. Why would you say the gender? Use this because you're wondering if it'll be okay. And it's funny how people could even think, I mean, I can understand they would think that, but I could care less about the gender of a person that somebody loves because love hasn't anything to do with a gender or a body. You know what I'm saying? So if you can only love people of the same sex as you, and if you can only love people of an opposite sex, I still think it's a limited perception of love. To me, when you had a correct perception of love, you could do it both ways. You can love people of the same sex and you can love people of the opposite sex. Either one of them exclusive still is making the other person a body. If I can only love female bodies, then I'm still at the bodily level. If I can only love an opposite sex body, I'm still at an unconscious level. Either one of those. But love doesn't have anything to do with the body. It just what can come through. You want it to come through. You know. So but I love how I'm seeing so much change in people's attitudes around that. I think that's wonderful. It's a sign of awakening to me. It really is. I love when people talk about the stuff that people don't talk about. That's my favorite kind of people to talk to. Is the ones who don't have one tap of normality in their conversation. It's like they thrill me to no end. It's like, say something that really surprises me, please. You know, say the unexpected. Do the unexpected, you know. Yeah. It shakes up, it gets rid of your limiting personality. It creates another intersection. It creates another relationship. So I'm going to finish this paragraph. Time passes fast when you're torturing people with the truth. It says, he says, these layers protect your heart, right? And a great percentage of these layers are involved with denial, which is what? With creating places where things enter and simply sit. These things are not really things, but are all that you have found no meaning for. That's interesting. So something that you're in denial about is simply something that you don't have any meaning for it yet. So it's almost like it's coming to me, I don't know what it means, so instead of just letting it pass through, I take it and I set it aside in my consciousness so that I can try to judge it later. And so that's what you don't do. What you don't do is take it aside to judge it later. You just let that feeling go through you whether you think you understand what it is or not. It's much better to go, I feel depressed, that's what that is. And I am the creator of my experience. I feel depressed, right? So like we were saying, and so what was the last part of that we had the other day? It says, I feel disturbed. What is it in me that needs to be healed? I feel depressed. What is it in me? I'm not going to deny the depression. I'm just going to ask, what is it in me that needs to be healed about it? See the difference? I'm not denying it, but I'm also not letting it sit. I'm saying, what is it in me that needs to be healed? I feel afraid. What is it in me that needs to be healed? I think I want a relationship has eluded me. What is it in me that needs to be healed about relationships? Because I used to just think that the perfect situation or the perfect person, they were just going to show up without me ever having to do anything within myself for that to happen in a way that would be meaningful for me, you know. And I would hope that it would happen because I was cute enough or prosperous enough or well-dressed enough or had a good enough position that they would just want me because of the way I looked and what I had. because I used to see that happen all the time with so many of my friends. I had a buddy when I was in high school, used to make me sick. Because he was one of those guys that, you know, as soon as the chick saw him, they thought he was so handsome that panties would fly. And just because of the way he looked, he didn't have to say anything. He didn't care about them or anything. And I would just go, but I was the nice guy. And they never liked the nice guys. Guys who were nice always became your friend. Which meant you ain't getting nothing. Never. But you get a chance to hear the person's problems that they're going through with the guy that they really have the passion for. That's the payoff you get for being the friend. As you can tell, I'm not hanging on to that.
Okay.
I don't believe.
You're not a nice guy.
I don't believe in holding. So the way I handled that was, I stopped being a nice guy. What a great solution. Just turn into a bad boy yourself. What does it mean it needs to be healed? Being too damn nice.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be healed.
That's my
That's what I need to be healed.
Could be something there.
I'm
Oh,
gonna be mean, girl.
I remember one girl I was just in love with. That you thought you knew what love was at 16 or whatever, 17. And that's when she broke up with me. She told me, "You just too nice." Oh, so I should just smack you around?
Oh.
Why shouldn't that be sufficient? But then I learned through studying the truth that being a loving being is attractive to a person who's loving themselves. And that was a difference I saw. I'm still nice, I can't help it. But now I attract people to me who are turned on by someone who respects them, who sees them, who recognizes them, who love them. You know, but when you're in that level of consciousness where you're around people, because you're that way yourself, who don't really love themselves yet, they can't respond to a loving man. They just can't do it. There's no juice for a loving man if you don't love yourself, and vice versa. Vice versa. So it works both ways. Different intersections. Different intersections. So anyway, it says, since your function is seen as assigning meaning rather than what? Receiving meaning. That's interesting. So your function is not to assign meaning to the guys, it's to receive the meaning of the guys. And you receive the meaning from truth. Truth is giving us the meaning that I'm in your life for is to help you recognize the love and the beauty that you are and that I am, right? That's the meaning, right? And it says, since your function is seen as assigning meaning rather than receiving meaning, that which you consider meaningless sits, and that which you consider beyond meaning sits. So if there's something I see as meaningless, it just sits there. But if something that's beyond any meaning that I can give it, like God, for instance, God just sits there because it's beyond our comprehension. So things that's beyond your comprehension, you don't do nothing with, and things that you don't know what they mean, this is essentially the same thing. You don't do anything with. So what do we do? So what do we do in order to convince ourselves that we know what's going on? We assign meaning. That's what adults do in order to make themselves think that they know what's going on. Adults walk into a room and they start judging everything that's going on so they can convince themselves they know exactly what's happening so they can feel safe. And that's why adults repeat the same experiences over and over again. And adults get so bored because they get so closed-minded, because that's their way of making themselves think they know what's happening. That's why children have so much energy. Everything is wonder to them. They don't have meanings assigned yet. We have all meanings assigned. So we need to get rid of them. We need to have a cleaning house of meaning. It says, you might imagine yourself as the creator of an unfinished dictionary. And all that is sitting as that which you have determined you will, at some later date, get around to assigning meaning to. So I'm a creator of an unfinished dictionary, and I haven't gotten around to assigning meaning to everything yet. And that's what we do. It's like, I haven't assigned meaning to. And so somebody that's new, you don't really know. Like what I try to do with my friends, is label them and put them up on the shelf and say, this is what I can do with Cheryl. I know exactly what I'm going to experience with Cheryl every time I'm with Cheryl, because I have assigned a meaning to Cheryl in terms of what I can experience with her, and I've labeled her, and now this is Cheryl. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we do that with people. We go, this is the limitation of what I can do with this person. This is what this person is about. This is what my experience of this person is. And then you don't question them anymore, because now you think you know who they are. Mm-hmm. And it seems right because that's what you perceive in your layers. So therefore it looks like that's the way they are. Wow. So tonight's lesson is saying to me, it's time for me to let go of my layers and for me to allow myself to receive the meaning, as opposed to me assigning meaning to everyone and then attacking them for not fulfilling the meaning that I've given them. So could we acknowledge ourselves for hearing this much together? Let this much in. Remember, the enthusiasm we give ourselves is the enthusiasm the world is going to give back to us. I tell you, nobody's going to get more excited about you than you.
That's true.
I don't know how to break it to you, but that's the way it works. He says in the Course of Love, in one of the books, that truth that you do not use becomes a burden. It actually becomes something that brings you pain. So in other words, there are a lot of truth students that what they do is they just accumulate information. Mm-hmm. They don't actually do anything with it, but they accumulate it. And so what happens is it becomes a burden, because what your ego does is it takes the information that you have read and studied, but you aren't using it, and it's using it to judge and criticize you for not using it. Mm-hmm. So you end up beating yourself up even more because you got all this information that you haven't been able to integrate and practice and use. So it'd be better to have a little truth that you try to live than to have a lot of truth that just something you read in classes and books, and then you go back out in the world and you just do it the way that everybody else in the world does it. So that's just another little tip I wanted to share with you, because it's another little tip I needed to learn. So what we're going to do, let's end on what we began with one more time. On this time at the end, and because these are the key things to keep in mind. And at the end, just for the fun of it, let's just put some enthusiasm in it, who feels like doing it. Because enthusiasm creates. Enthusiasm creates. All right, here we go. Even though you just sit in your chair, could you rock?
This is
the steps to awakening. The first step to awakening is to allow into the mind this axiom of truth, which is nothing that I experience is caused by anything outside of me. I experience only the effects of my own choice. What? I experience only the effects of my own choice. You need to come to the point where you say to yourself, what? I have done this to myself. I did it. I must correct it. No one is to blame. The world is innocent. The truth is true always. Not my will, but thine be done, for I can do nothing, but the Creator does all things through me. Rest assured, whenever you feel frustration and anxiety, it's because you have decided not to trust the truth, and the truth is simply this. What? Only my Creator's plan for my happiness will work. Say what? Only my Creator's plan for my happiness will work. It requires great humility to accept the first step on the path, which is, I have done all this. I must undo it. But I have no idea how I did this. Therefore, I must surrender to something else. If you would create well, ask only, what am I committed to communicating? What will my creations express? What will my creations convey to others? For what I seek to convey reveals what I believe is the truth of myself and to the world. Understand well, the way of the heart requires that you allow yourself to rest in the simplicity of truth, which is, I am spirit, undefiled and unaffected by anything or anyone. I am given full power to choose and therefore to create my experience as I would have it be. Let's say that again. I am pure spirit, undefiled and unaffected by anything or anyone. I am given full power to choose and therefore to create my experience as I would have it be. The truth is true. Always. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for coming tonight. Love you so much. You're blessed. Yes. Woo! Your heart is cold.